Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul. I'm not entirely sure where to start because I've gotten these from a lot of different places, but essentially this is an over 50 book haul and I don't know how long it's going to take because I'm already very long-winded. I got them from Illumicrate because I do subscribe to Illumicrate. I skip fairly often, so I'm fairly picky. I also had two friends visit as a tax for entering my home. I did have them bring me books, so I have some books from friends, and then my partner went back to the States to clear out some of our storage from the States because we do not intend to be returning. And in doing that, he also filled an entire suitcase full of my old books I wanted back. This is pretty much my spring first quarter book haul, but I haven't done a book haul in a long time. I feel like this will be up to date as of my bookshelf tour. If you want to see an entire inventory of my books before getting into these books, I'll have that video linked above and below. But otherwise, let me introduce myself. My name is Jade. I'm a cozy political fantasy author. This is my debut fantasy novel, The Solstice Court. I'm a booktuber who also makes writing content and lives in Japan. So if you'd like a mix of all of those, go ahead and stick around, but otherwise stick around for this book haul because it's happening now. Okay, because this is also my inventory of like books I've had for a long time, I also have old books, like old fantasy, because that is something I've always collected. So I'm gonna start with my old school books, and I'm gonna start with Tamara Pierce. If you don't know who Tamara Pierce is, I think she's possibly most known for her Song of the Lioness Quartet, which I do have and my original copies up on my shelves, but I also have all of her other books within that kingdom. So I have the Immortals series. This is my original copy from when I was 8 or 9 years old. Obviously, it's not in great condition, but it's mine. And it smells like it's mine. Amazing and adorable. And it's literally, I'm not gonna put the most recent, but this is so cute. It's gone through all of my name iterations. So when I was born, I had one name. And then when my mom changed my name, and then when I was adopted by my dad, I ended up with my final name, which I'm just gonna go ahead and blank out. But literally just crossing out all of my different names throughout my timeline is adorable. And I just, yeah, like this is a really personalized copy. I also have this completed series, but I do want to get these covers, which is a collectible at this point. I have the updated covers, which I absolutely loathe. Wolf Speaker, Emperor Mage, and In the Realms of the Gods. This series is absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it as far as old fantasy goes. The first book follows Dane, who is able to speak to animals, and she has a very strong connection with horses and ponies and equestrian creatures. So she goes to work for the kingdom and ends up getting pulled into politics, wars, and magic, and it's fantastic. It really grows the entire world building of where I believe you should start, which is the Lioness Quartet. So this is the sequel series, and it takes place in a timeline, so you see the characters from the other books. So they're interconnected series that you can read as standalones, but I always recommend starting with Lioness Quartet. So I have these. I do eventually plan on getting rid of these, but for now, I do want to just have the completed series. I am looking for these covers in the long term. Then also by Tamara Pierce, I have her short story collection. This is the Tortal and Other Lands, a collection of tales. This just has a whole bunch of short stories, and it is all taking place within the Tortal world and has some of those characters from the interconnectedness of the realm of Tortal. This is one of my favorite worlds to enter if I need a comfort read. I will go ahead and say that this book, which is Tempest and Slaughter by Tamara Pierce, is one of her newest books, if not her last book that she has actually put out. I believe that she got sick a while back and has had some delays with this series. This is a spin-off of the Immortals series and follows one of our main characters in the earlier parts of his life, which this was a very interesting character in the Immortals series, so I'm really glad she did it, and I hope she finishes what I believe is a duology. Then in the same world, I have the Protector of the Small series. This has The First Test, Paige, Squire, and Lady Knight. All of her books definitely deal with gender and trying to discover where you belong, and women entering fields that are normally pervasive with men and challenging that and just breaking boundaries. And this was just so important to me growing up because our main character Keldry is the first knight after all of the events that have happened in the Lioness Quartet to actually take on the new trends that are happening in this kingdom of there being lady knights and all of the things that she still has to fight against as far as like stereotypes and such. And these were really important to me growing up, and I wanted to have them, and I really like these editions, so these are probably my final editions of the books. Then we have Trickster's Queen and Trickster's Choice, and these follow the daughter of one of the main characters in the series. I don't want to give anything away because it does give away a lot of the plot, but our character Allie in this series is is a noblewoman who gets captured and enslaved and sent to an island and ends up making a deal with a trickster god in order to become a spy for him. Really, this is like one of the standouts for her. As I got older and I wanted some books that felt a little bit more YA, I think that these feel adult but also really feed a YA need. Allie was a really cool main character and I loved the romance. I don't want to give away where the romance is because it kind of has some swerves in it, but it's very, very good. And then we have back in the past, we're still in Tortall. We are still in the land of Tortall, but we have Becca Cooper and Bloodhound, and these were really good books. I think that there might be 3 of them. I might be missing one. That's annoying, and I'll eventually fix it, but this takes place in the past and follows one of the romantic interests' ancestry and follows ancient Tortall, which I just find so interesting and is so inspirational for me as far as like where to go in your series. I really do love this world, and I found out that I can enjoy it in just about any era of its existence, and I love that she went ahead and explored it. And this follows Becca, who is a city guard, and she ends up trying to solve a murder while also getting involved in some underground activity, and it's just her going throughout the ranks, making ripples within the larger history of the world. And I think that might be all for Tortall. That's my Tamara Pierce collection. I really have just stuck kind of in the Tortall world. I know that there's other books that she's written that follow different realms and different worlds, but I'm really connected to that one. So as far as collecting old books, that's my hoard. Then another older fantasy series I absolutely adore and I love rereading is Dealing with Dragons by Patricia Reed, and I collected these older versions of them slowly over time, but again, this first one is my original from when I was like 8, 9, 10. I've just held on to them and I love these covers. They are amazing and I love how pocket-sized and adorable they are. This is peak goals for me. I would love to have a fantasy series out that's just like a little pocket-sized quartet. But then I also have Talking with Dragons, Calling on Dragons, and Searching for Dragons. I have these covers of them, which I am so happy. I collected these over years, went out, I hunted, I searched at old bookstores, and it was like so fulfilling to finally have them all. And I just, yeah, I can't wait to keep them forever. Very much so looking forward to the rest of my life having these books. But Dealing with Dragons, I can explain probably better than my own book. This follows our main character, Cimarine, and she is set to marry a prince and decides she has absolutely no interest in it. So she leaves, flees, and takes up residence with a dragon named Kazul. They become fast friends and she ends up just living her life with dragons while the prince goes to try and rescue her, and she is completely disinterested. It's kind of like, I think it's Paper Bag Girl or something like that. It has those vibes, but as a young adult series, it goes really deep into the world building and the magic system. It's dragon heavy and I definitely recommend it. I absolutely adore these books. They meant so much to me growing up and I still get a lot of enjoyment out of reading them today. I'm very happy to have my collection back and to put these somewhere very special. I don't know where I'm putting any of these new books on my shelves. My shelves are full. We're gonna figure it out. I think the last of my very old fantasy novels, oh no, I have one more series, but as far as like old style classic fantasy, my last one I've talked about on my channel quite a few times if you're one of my older subscribers, but if you're new, Summer at Castle Auburn by Shiron Shin is one of my all-time favorites. It's also a standalone, just packs so much punch, and it was revolutionary for me as far as trying to create my own morals and ethics as a child, having them dealt with in a really like soft, cozy, I would say at this point, fantasy book that goes throughout this girl's life. She starts off being like 8, 9, or 10. She lives in the city and is raised by her grandmother, but then is brought over to Castle Auburn just in the summers.
Forgotten context that her father is a noble and her mother was a commoner. She's visiting Castle Auburn to visit her father for the summers, but lives with her commoner family during the rest of the year.
Which I used to relate to heavily as a child.
Further context about me, just want to clear this up, that both sides of my family were commoners. I didn't have any noble family members.
She is grappling with classism and stratification. She falls in love with the prince, but also finds that his privilege and the way he looks at the world is very different from hers, and ends up having to challenge a lot about herself as she goes through. There is magical creatures in this. There's just a lot of really great questions that I think people should be asking right now, and that this book stands up. I used to read it every single summer. I would read it on the summers where I'd be going to visit my family, and this was just like my go-to tradition, and I'm happy to have it back. Finally, this is an entire series. They're very short, very small. They are contemporary urban fantasy, specifically Wiccan series, which meant a lot to me growing up within the pagan community because there was not a lot of books that really dealt with some of the practices that I think are often overly fantasized romanticized, and I don't want to get into it, but witchcraft, sometimes it's really hard for me to read. But the Sweep series by Tieran, these were books to me that really like stayed on the line of talking about Wicca and paganism while also still having some mystical and magical elements that were believable, understandable, and they were fantastic YA books for me growing up. They are very, very, very short. They've been recently rebranded and put into omnibuses, but these are my original ones I read growing up. I think they're out of print, so I'm very glad I have them. Oh gosh, okay, where's the first one? There's so many. Not gonna go through and do every one. Where is number one? We have the first one, which is Book of Shadows. Once again, has my handwriting in there. It's an old favorite. They continue throughout, obviously. It's a longer series. How many pages is the first book? With like fairly large font, this one is only 175 pages. So you have a series of 13 books, each one at like 175. Very manageable to read series, and I think the omnibuses were a good idea. I'm just, you know, while we're in the magical Wicca, I grew up with paganism stuff, you can go ahead and skip ahead if that's of no interest to you. But I have some of my books that were passed on either from my mom or that I've collected over time, and I have them and I got them and I wanted to keep them, so I might as well make reference of them here. Everything is about to topple, so if you hear a really loud sound, it's toppling. The Spellcraft Creating Magical Objects by Scott Cunningham and by David Harrington. This is a book that was given to me by my mom and is kind of just stayed within our family. This one was also given to me by my mom. Raising Witches, pretty self-explanatory. Then we have Wiccan Gardens by Jarena Dunwich, and I have absolutely failed at this as far as having a garden of any sort, but I do use this specifically for like if I have a upset stomach or if I'm trying to make different food or drinks that I want to have some intention behind, headaches and such. I've also used it before for my book because there is apothecary elements within my fantasy series, so I have made reference to this before. And then this was given to me by my best friend a long time ago, The New Astrology by Suzanne White, and this is a mixture Eastern and Western astrology and the statistics behind it, looking at similarities and differences, and whether you believe in astrology or not. I don't personally really care, but it is just a lot of statistics. In the same vein as like herbology, and this is something I definitely use, which is the Complete Book of Incense, Oils, and Brews. Sometimes I make my own incense, oils, and brews, and I'm not getting any more into it, but this is one of my standbys. Like, this is one of my family books, and even if you don't believe in magic, you can believe that ginger helps with nausea. Moving on. Then as far as the last one for old fantasy or classic fantasy, I have my copy of The Romance of Arthur, an anthology of medieval texts in translation. This was the one I read when I actually was an Arthurian legend major. That's true. There was about 3 terms in university that I thought I was going to be an Arthurian legend major because they offered it, and I thought, yes, I absolutely want to make a career out of that. I also was studying psychology and child psychology at the time and ended up swerving paths, but I had so much fun reading this and I'm obsessed with it, and I like made art and poetry. It was very much so my own personal renaissance was reading this text alongside other Arthurian legend texts, but I have this so marked and penned up, and there's so many things about this that I love. Arthurian legend is like one of my soul heart affinity focuses that I just love to read about in all of its various forms, and I'm actually fairly knowledgeable given the fact that I do not have a degree in Arthurian legend. These obviously follow the legends of King Arthur and the knights and subsequent world and history. Also, shout out to my partner who read the entirety of The Great Gatsby to me in high school before we were together. We were not an item yet, we were just friends. So this is my copy from high school, from my high school library. It has a library stamp in it. I'm so sorry to my high school library, but I'm not giving it back. This is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and my partner read it to me out loud so that I could take the test on it because I wasn't highly interested in it. But now I love the story because of the association of us. A rare romance moment for me. I have sentimentality somewhere buried within my soul, and that's why I have this edition of The Great Gatsby. And now we're moving into my more modern texts, I believe. Yeah, everything here seems a little bit more modern. I'm looking at a freaking 1990s Pokemon handbook, and I'm going, how modern do you think you are? That exists, and now we're moving on. But I have A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, and this is such a good dragon book. I'm also gonna say I only gave it a 3.5, but that's because I just felt the potential and I just was reserving all of the 4s and 5s I'm going to give this series when I eventually reread this one and then read the rest of the series. Our main character, Lady Trent, is a noble woman and she loves to study dragons. She likes science, and she finally gets put on an expedition where she goes to study dragons. If you like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I feel like this is kind of if The Mummy met get Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and made it dragons. I don't want to explain anything more about the expedition, so that's what I'm going with. I love these covers. They're so scientific and they're all gorgeous. But I only have the first for now. I hate the fact that this is not a sticker, this is just on there, but we have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really love all of the Taylor Jenkins Reid's books that I've read. Daisy Jones and the Six was one that kind of flew under my radar. I read it, enjoyed it, thought it was really interesting, and then the TV drama came out and I watched that and I was like, oh my god, I'm in love with this. It just brought it to life. So when my partner was going through my storage and I saw this, I was like, yeah, grab this one. This follows a woman named Daisy in the 60s and she goes ahead and starts a rock band. First it's very underground and then her and the 6 band members star rocket into fame. It's told in interviews and there's like a twist at the end. I highly recommend the audiobook alongside this. The television drama stuck with me so much that I definitely wanted this back. I was also gifted Piranesi by Susanna Clark, and my friend just saw it at a secondhand bookstore, and she and I actually both really love Piranesi and we've talked about it a lot. We've actually obsessed about it a lot. So she went ahead and got me this edition just because she saw it in a secondhand shop. I love it because she gave it to me and it's cute and pocket sized. Oh, how do I explain Piranesi? I do have a vlog where I read Piranesi, so I will try and find wherever I put that and link it down below. Oh my gosh, this book is so short. I cannot tell you how much impact this book had on my life. Piranesi is a character and they live in a world. They know a lot about it and Piranesi's just gonna tell you all about it and you're gonna listen and you're gonna feel a little bit concerned for Piranesi and you're going to love Piranesi, but you're not going to fully trust that this is a reliable narrator despite very much so caring about them. And I'll go ahead and leave it there. It's a classic, everyone loves it, and there's a reason why. Lady McBeth by Ava Reid. I'm so glad I got my hands on this copy. All of Ava Reid's books are feral. She has like such a good grasp on the feminine rage energy while also making it very classy. She is classy feminine rage, but also sometimes will just take a bite out of you. I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it. Lady McBeth is a retelling of the story Macbeth from Lady Macbeth's perspective. She is normally seen as an antagonistic force. I am not a deep Shakespearean connoisseur or anything like that. I've read the stories and plays when I was younger, but I'm not one of those like purists, I would say. I loved this. That's the end of that. It's also incredibly short, but it still had an emotional impact on me. This book could have been like this long for the amount of emotional impact it had on it. And I got this from my friend Soleil. Also from Soleil, I got Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. I love T. Kingfisher's books. I'm a huge T. Kingfisher fan and I am slowly collecting their books, and Sword Heart is probably one of my all-time favorites. Yes, that's hard. I have an entire video dedicated to me trying to find my favorite book, and I go through every single book that I've enjoyed since I started BookTube. I'll link that down below, up above, everywhere in between. Sword Heart was a hard one on that list. That was a definite, and this cover is gorgeous. I didn't mind the other cover, this one, but this one really does, I feel like, better sing to the ideals and the vibes of this story. This story follows Hala, and she unexpectedly gets an inheritance from her uncle, who her family then try and take from her. So her first reaction is, of course, to try and stab herself with a gigantic broadsword, which luckily she doesn't, because the gigantic broadsword has a human soul in it that comes out of the sword, and that is Sarkis, who then is her bodyguard and guides her to the city so that she can get a lawyer and actually try and reclaim her money. This could have gone on forever. Could have never ended, as they just went about their daily lives on the regular. I'm sad that it's over, but I am going to be reading other books within this universe. I feel like T. Kingfisher has the same ability to grasp me as Tamara Pierce, where I just get super invested in the world and it doesn't matter what era, what timeline, I'll just dive in and I'll stay there. I also want to read the Paladins series next and then revisit this, because I think that there are Paladin characters that come up in this and I didn't know who they were. Then I won, I guess it'd be a giveaway, Sarah Sutton, who is an author tuber that I watch and really adore. Like, her content, she could be doing nothing, and sometimes in her vlogs she does, and I am just enjoying the crap out of her. She's such a genuine being. She gives me so much joy, and she is also a romance author. She does young adult as well as a little bit of new adult, and she posted on her Instagram that she was looking for like a series title for her interconnected standalones. I just threw my hat into the ring based off of the series she's described before in her vlogs. I was like, oh, what about this? She ended up choosing it and it was like a giveaway, so I ended up getting a copy of her book Love and Other Champagne Problems, and it is a special edition of it, as well as having a personalized signature in it. Like, I have no intention of ever getting rid of this book. I also bounce shipped it from my grandmother's house to get it, and this follows follows our main character who is an heiress of a hotel. There's a name for that. It's like hotelier. Either way, she's an heiress and she's supposed to marry rich. In order to keep her under their thumbs, they go ahead and hire her a personal assistant to kind of keep her on the straight and narrow, who is not an heir to a fortune, but as you can tell, they are holding hands. This is a romance. Absolutely plan on reading this book for, I'm going to do like a romance vlog where I try different types of romance and try and find my niche. So that's where this will come in. Speaking of romance, my friend Madison, who came to visit me, is in the publishing world and she works for a fairly major publisher and brought me books from that publisher. So I ended up with Sierra Simone's Priest series. I can't tell you how interesting it will be to read these, but for me personally. But we have Priest, Saint, and Sinner by Sierra Simone, and I have dabbled in Sierra Simone a little bit before because she has an Arthurian legend retelling, Washington DC meets Camelot. I also love Olivia Savannah. Her channel is fantastic and she loves Sierra Simone. She gives me FOMO for Sierra Simone. So I am interested in this. It's so out of my realm. I'm blushing just talking about it, but this follows a priest, where is he? Priest who's definitely not supposed to do things that happens often in like spicy romance books, but he's going to be tempted. And I'm going to be reading it. Thank you to Madison for opening that portal. I'm not going to linger on these long because I was told that there's some sort of, and again, I'm not in the romance sphere, so I'm fairly behind on understanding and knowing, but I was also gifted Piper C.J.'s books. This is a fantasy series of some sort. The Deer and the Dragon and the Fox and the Falcon. This might be a problematic author. They have sprayed edges and I haven't looked enough into it to decide where I stand on anything, but I did want to acknowledge that I got them and that they have sprayed edges, which is interesting with paperback. Like, what do you think about sprayed edges with paperback? I think I kind of like it. I do get people's frustrations with a constant sprayed edge. I have a book. Do I want sprayed edges in the future? I don't know. Let me know what you think about sprayed edges. These are my Batman comics. We have Hush, The Dark Knight Returns, and The Court of Owls. I love The Court of Owls. They are Batman comics in full color, and these are 3 of my favorites, and I'm glad to have them back. I want to collect more of them, but they are very spendy. So I just was grabbing the ones that I already had and they came in this box set. Then we have Down Among the Sticks and Bones and Every Heart a Doorway. This is part of the Shauna Maguire series that I am slowly collecting because these are spendy. Look how tiny that is. These are expensive. The other one I have and my favorite of the series is In an Absent Dream. So I'm just collecting the ones I love most first because you can read them out of order. A whole video dedicated to reading order of these and my take on every single book in this series. I'm just slowly collecting the physical of them, but Every Heart of Doorway is the beginning of the series, and it has children who don't feel like they belong in our world, that tumble into different portals or doors and find worlds that are like perfectly suited to them. But what Every Heart of Doorway grapples with is people that end up outside of their doors once more. Think Alice in Wonderland post Wonderland. There's a bit of trauma there, and this really explores a lot of different childhood traumas, things that come up in childhood that are really difficult to navigate, and I just think they're done in such a beautiful way, and I know why this series is beloved, and I'm glad that I could add 2 more additions to it. Then I have had this on my shelves for a very long time, but it was my friend's copy that they lent me 3 years ago, and I never gave it back to them. And I really wanted to read Cemetery Boys, but I haven't had the right moment, the right time. They want to reread Cemetery Boys, but haven't been able to because I had their copy. So Soleil went ahead and grabbed me a copy, and now I have my own copy of the Cemetery Boys, which for some reason I feel like is going to make me read it sooner, and I don't know what that is. It's either a contrarian energy within me. It's the fact that I don't like deadlines, and the moment I'm given a TBR or a task to do, I don't want to do it until my deadline is eliminated or it's passed or like we're in the finish line. So now that I have ample time to read this, I think I will read it soon. I don't know what my deal is with that. Many people will probably know about this series. Would be remiss to not say that I have been reunited with my copies of the Tearagon Society as well as the Tearagon Festival. I still need the 3rd book in this series, which I believe is the Tearagon Tapestry, which has a gorgeous cover, and I definitely want it in these library bindings. I adore them. The Tearagon Society is literally just a cozy fantasy. There's an actual story in here because they're so short and meaningful. I think that they're best experienced just you kind of wandering in to the Tearagon Society. It's these different characters and they live in a world where the dragons are based off of different teas and they like grow little tea leaves out of their antlers. That's adorable. Also, my friend Soleil went above and beyond. I think like 4 years ago there was a Kickstarter Kickstarter for plushies of these tea dragons, and she bought herself some and then went ahead and bought me the same pack and then has been just hoarding and holding on to them for years. I have the plushie versions of the Tearagon Society. She gifted these to me when she came to visit. I'll have the link to that vlog. It's one of my favorite vlogs that I've filmed in a long time, and I'm incredibly biased, but hello? Are you kidding me? Look at these guys. We have Mountain Chamomile, Rooibos. He's great. I love Rooibos. We also have Jasmine. You see the little sprigs growing out of their antlers. They also have wires in their tails. These are super well made. I don't know why I'm telling you about them because the Kickstarter has definitely ended, like as of 3 years ago. There's wires in their little ears. These are so well made. They were fantastic. I don't know if you can find them secondhand. Just am so happy that I own them, as well as getting my Tea Dragon books back. Now I just need tapestry. Very inclusive as far as diversity and disability representation, kind ways of looking at the world, and just peaceful. So if you're looking for something peaceful right now, I do highly recommend these to just kind of take a moment for yourself. This is self-care. I was also gifted a Language of Dragons, and Draconathon has come and gone, but this book remains. I have not finished it yet. I'm about 35-40% of the way through. I'm trucking along. This was the group book. We have since, I believe, moved on in our book club. I'll have all of the Draconathon information linked down below. Soleil got me this edition of A Language of Dragons, and it is pushing me through. The main character in this is a little bit frustrating. This is like a 1920s stratified classist society with dragons, and our main character is growing up in a place of privilege until her family is taken away for possibly being part of a rebellion, and she, as a linguist of dragons, tasked with trying to help the more dictatorship part of the war that's happening with dragons. I do feel that she is intentionally obtuse and aggravating. She is frustrating to read, and I'm loving all of the other characters. I'm loving the descriptions. I'm loving the dragons. It's just slow moving because I am such a character driven reader that when I don't like the main character and the voice I'm in, it makes me want to argue with the main character. So I'm in my head, I'll read a line and then I'll have a thought after where I'm like, yeah, well, actually it's this. I'm having an argument with this book, but I don't think it's a bad book. I actually think it's doing a lot of important things, and I'm only 35% of the way through. But it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and this is not a book review, this is a book haul. So this is the UK edition, and I'm very happy I have it. We've made a lot of progress. I am almost finished. So I'm going to do a couple series so that I can go ahead and wrap this up. Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance. I need the third book in this series. I also need to reread it. There was like a 2-year gap between this book and this one, and when I read this one, I didn't remember enough of this story, but this was one of the books that got me onto BookTube. I really wanted to talk about it with people, and it was one of the leading causes of me starting my channel. And then the next book didn't come out for a really long time, and I was so excited to read it when it did come out that I read it without any of the emotional attachment I'd had originally reading it. So I need to reread this because I ended up giving this quite a bit of a lower score, and I believe that all of the things mentioned is to blame for it. So I'm going to reread and then finish this series because the third and final book I do believe has already come out. Because this is a little bit of an older BookTube classic, I'll go ahead and explain that Children of Blood and Bone follows Zaylee, and she is in the world of Orisha, who comes into her magic when she is not supposed to and ends up at odds with the nobility there that is trying to snuff magic out. It's got some Avatar elements, but specifically Katara and Zuko elements in there. So if that's of any interest to you, it was definitely of interest to me, then I think that this does a really great job of that. I need to complete the series and complete reading the series. Then I have a middle grade series that I have in its entirety, and these are some of my absolute favorite middle grades. It's up there with like the Nevermore series, and if you're new to my channel, you don't understand how intense I am about Nevermore. Fairly intense. And alongside those books is a contemporary series following a trio of siblings who go away for the summers, and that is the Penderwicks. The Penderwick sisters go away for the summers, and they just have these little like summer adventures that feel so nostalgic. Each series follows eldest child in the group around the age of like 12 or 13, and then as they age up, it goes to the next sister, and then the next sister, and then finally it ends with the baby sister. And I sobbed reading these. They are so good. They also have such important life lessons in them as well. Family dynamics and after my own heart. I have one more comic, which is Always by Yumi Yamamoto. This is a graphic novel by my editor. It is incredibly short, but it's just like a glimpse into somebody's life and something really harrowing that they're going through within a relationship, but it's incredibly relatable, and I bought it before Yumi was my editor. And then the final book on this list is the Illumicrate edition of Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao. It's absolutely gorgeous with end papers differing on each side. Holy crap. I don't look at this book enough. But Water Moon follows a girl taking over her family's pawn shop, which also serves as like a ramen restaurant in a little back alley of Tokyo. But the secret part of this pawn shop is that they trade in people's regrets. I think it sounds really interesting. I'm excited to read it, and I definitely nabbed this up and did not skip when I found out it was the book for Illumicrate, because the original cover was already so gorgeous. I knew I wasn't going to lose, and I definitely don't feel like I lost. I feel like I won. But you've won too, because this is the end of this book haul. Are there any books in this haul that you have read before, or you would be excited to read, or had maybe never heard of because some of them were old? Let me know in the comments down below. If you can't be bothered, oh my god, there's so many options for emojis right now. Go ahead and leave a sword emoji for sword heart. Liking, subscribing, all of that good stuff really helps my channel if you enjoy it. But whether you do or not, I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye!